Hi, I'm Kevin Paulin,
And I'm Ben Backus.
and welcome to the Falling Up Podcast, where we have discussions about turning obstacles into opportunities.
On today's episode, we bring to you a conversation with Lamont Young. Lamont is a community activist and psychotherapist. And what's really unique about Lamont is he works with individuals suffering from all sorts of substance use and mental health disorders, and he works with them and helps them not only from an academic standpoint, but also a lived experience standpoint.
Yes, Mr. Young is also a co-founder to Unite, whose mission is to break down barriers and bring everyone together through love and forgiveness. He's also featured in The Call to Unite, Voices of Hope, and Awakening.
Yeah, and the book, like Lamont's story, is incredibly powerful and is all about overcoming obstacles, quite literally, and also coming together and strengthening our society in these really, unknown and difficult times.
So today episode, we're going to talk about resilience, love, faith, and forgiveness. So get your popcorn ready and enjoy the Falling Up Podcast.
So can you just give us like a little, if you were to give us the paragraph clip of who you are, what you do, kind of who you're involved with Unite.
Where you're from.
Sure. So my name is Lamont Young, and I'm currently a psychotherapist. I am training to receive my license up under Reliant Behavioral Health Community Services. I specialize in trauma-related dissociation. I work with clients that suffer from mental health issues, alcohol and substance abuse, as well as clients that just came home from prison. Mm-hmm. And so one of my job descriptions is executing a wraparound service. When they come home, we try to help them with housing, food resources, as well as medical and cardiovascular resources as well. Which is my specialty. I specialize in not only trying to treat clients with emotional dysfunction, but also try to help them out with their heart disease or prevention or intervention of their possible diagnosis.
So taking a real holistic approach.
Absolutely.
And not just like you kind of said, the psychotherapy aspect, but also the physical health and everything.
Absolutely.
In that regard. Now, can you tell us a little bit about Unite and what Unite is all about and how you got hooked up with them?
Sure. So the founder of Unite, I'm the co-founder of Unite. The founder of Unite, his name is Timothy Stryver, and he came to me and said, "Hey, Lamont, you want to try to find a way to save the world?" I said, "Let's do it, man." I didn't even talk about how much he wanted to pay me. I just wanted to get in and try to do something big, something bigger than myself. And so I went in blind. I went to DC, and it was at least 30 people that was a part of Unite. Everybody was trying to find their role, trying to find their way to figure out how to best bridge the divide in this country. But prior to us coming up with the name Unite, we went through like a transformation of at least two different names. It was called Inspiration Nation, then Transformer Nation, and then after that, we decided to say, you know what, we need to heal the division in this country. And the majority of the people that want to be a part of Unite were humanitarians, and they wanted to be able to say, you know, it's not about black or white, it's about basic survival. How do we survive and share resources together and change the narrative in this country?
That's
And
awesome.
what was the co-founder's name?
Timothy Stryver.
So and it was you and Timothy who came together and founded this organization?
Him and at least, I would say, 10 other people came together.
Yep.
So it's 10 co-founders. Timothy Stryver and John Bridgeland are the actual founders.
Yep.
And so we all came together and we just kept building out, developing work product, coming up with research based upon our own discipline. Since I was a psychologist, I have a strong faith base. So I was bringing spirituality to the table, psychology, research to the table. So I was integrating all those disciplines and my own life's experiences growing up in New Hallville, New Haven, and then living in New York City for 10 years, understanding front row and center poverty and drug addiction, and being able to understand human suffering, and homelessness. So it was just that pain and sense of urgency to get something done that allowed me to convey that or translate that onto paper so he can be able to take the work product and say, I see where you're going at with this. Let's try to find a way to do it this way or do it that way. So that's when I learned how to collaborate ideas, build out, be able to come up with a prototype, to be able to say, okay, this is not it. Let's just keep trying to figure it out and just keep checking and double checking until we say, aha, that's what it is. But in order for us to find out that's what it is, it had to hit all our spirits. Someone may have cried. I used to cry all the time. When I write something, I literally hear them say it and the tears just come out of my eyes because it was a spiritual approach to be able to put that work out there. I wasn't just writing things down. It had to come from somewhere. Does that?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm getting roll. I'm on a roll right now.
Yeah.
I'm in Unite mode.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm in Unite mode right now.
So when Unite was first founded, what was its actual mission?
The mission was to heal the divide in this country, to be able to transform the way people think. It was really going into, it was trying to it was pretty much trying to debunk the myth of individuals can't work together, can't see eye to eye, whether it was Republican or Democrat. I would say it was 50-50. It was Democrats and Republicans, left, far left. Everybody came together because of the past administration, all the divides and all the false propaganda that was taking place where children were being affected. So someone, we all say, enough is enough. We need to go into social media. We need to hit the ground and develop some type of grassroots organization. We need to pull from all different ideas and figure out how can we best serve this country and then recreate or redefine what America will be.
And what do you guys see that definition being?
It's on a continuum. Every time we felt like we finally hit our mark, there's always something taking place in this country to cause us to take a step back and say, wow, although we accomplished this mission or hit this mark, how do we add to that? So we're never settled. We never confused about our role because of our spiritual drive to be able to try to figure out how can we pull from our spirit and from our background to be able to get us to the next level. So we're never in a stuck point. We're patient. So, yeah.
When did Unite start? When did you guys
2 years ago.
2 years ago?
Yes.
Okay. And okay. Out of DC.
Yes.
You touched on New Hallville, New Haven. So I want to take it back. I want to take it back to where it all started. And me knowing you, but for our guests, I feel like your upbringing is a real reason why you're doing Unite. You do everything that you do. So I really want to just go back to the beginning. Like, just tell me how I was growing up in New Hallville.
I am so glad that you mentioned that because in spite of everything I've accomplished and everything that I plan to accomplish with Unite, as well as the Larry Chang Heart Foundation, I have to go back to the essence of who Lamont Young really is. Lamont Young was raised by a single mother. I had an oldest brother. He passed away from heart disease, and a youngest brother. But we all grew up in poverty. We grew up around the time when it was gang activity, drug activity in 1987. But I used to find my mother hiding up underneath the bed because it was shooting so much. But prior to the shooting, my mom used to always keep us in church. So they used to tease us and call us Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego because it used to be all three of us lined up walking down New Hall Street, getting ready to go to church where my friends had to play. My friends had a chance to play and go out. My mom had us in church. And so I think that strong faith base of staying around church, my grandmother, she had us in church, kept us grounded, kept us humble, kept us with a sense of purpose of understanding that we are here to serve, and we also have to walk in love and forgiveness at the same time. Because once there's life, there's death, and then my mother and my grandmother used to always say, where would you spend eternity? And that always was at the back. I always kept that at the back of my head whenever I was involved in gang activity. What stopped me from crossing that line, from actually hurting somebody, was my strong faith base. I had the ability to do it. I had the friends to be able to help me carry it out, but I just wouldn't do it because my spiritual upbringing wouldn't allow me to cross that line and really commit horrific acts or violence.
That's yeah. No, I can relate to that. Even when I strayed away, the story of the prodigal son.
The prodigal son.
Right?
Yes.
So for our guest, the story of the prodigal son is there was a gentleman that left the house and he left the teachings of his father, and his father and the family said, "You will come back one day," because these teachings was a seed that they planted in him as a child, and then the person. This man went through, I forgot his name, but this man went through all ups and downs, all this stuff, and he ended up coming back home. And the father was waiting for him all those years. And they liken that story in church to people that stray away from the church. And I like to think of that story just not from a Christian aspect, but just from a good and bad aspect. You know what I mean? Like when you have the parents that instill those values in you, and you stray away and you do a whole bunch of stuff that's against those values, is still in the back of your mind. It's still there, and when the time comes, it comes at the right time. Like, because you can't kill it off. It's there.
Right. And that makes me think of the saying, I don't always know the right thing to do, but I always know the wrong thing to do. Right? I don't always know what that best course of action is, but I damn sure know where I don't need to be going.
Right. Exactly. So that's awesome, because I think, right and wrong is in us. We know, like you said, the wrong at least. Maybe not the right, but you know the wrong at least, and you know what to do. And we make bad choices, but eventually we go back to the teachings. We go back to how we were raised.
So was there, I know you kind of alluded to it, but what did gang activity in your life look like?
Acceptance and security. I remember when I first moved on Sheffield Avenue in Newhallville, I saw at least 10 guys just beating the heck out of this guy. And I was in the 9th grade, and I was like, whoa. And they just beat him unmercifully, and I was scared to death. And I said to myself, I need to get in where I fit in. And so I decided to just hang out with these guys and just prove myself that I'm loyal and trustworthy. And they accepted me, and I was a part of the crew. I was protected for 4 years during that time. No one touched me throughout the city of New Haven. I rode with at least 100 guys, and we were in middle school, and I can remember being in middle school, literally hanging out with 100 guys on Winchester Avenue, and we was terrorizing the older guys because there was so many of us, and I felt power. I felt invincible. It was a false sense of hope and love and connection. And so, to answer your question, it was just a false sense of security because my father wasn't around. No one's there to protect me. So how do I protect myself and my family, my mother and my brothers?
A false sense of hope, love, and protection.
Yes.
It's powerful.
Yes.
That's powerful. In real time, and it will be interesting in kind of hearing your story play out, when did you realize it was just a false sense?
That's a good question. It has to go back to Timothy Stryver. When I was in Hill House, I was in 9th grade. Tim was a teacher there. He was 23 years old. He was just starting out when he graduated from Yale. He wanted to try to figure out how he can be able to take his education and his experiences and be able to, help us out academically. We're falling behind. We didn't know how to put the pieces together, figure out what was the next steps in terms of going to college. And so he was just that person to help us try to figure it out. He cared about us. And so my brother Larry went up to Tim one day and said, Tim, I need you to help my brother Lamont out before he kills himself. He's out there wilding. He's doing things that can bring problems back to the house. So Tim said, I'll give it a shot. And Tim embraced me. He brought me in one day and told me, what does it mean to be a leader? And then I decided to join their organization, the group called the Young Men's Leadership Group. And there, for the first time, I was able to hold my head up high. I had a tie on. I was around my football colleagues and classmates. And before, I would have never hung out with them because I considered them square. But I felt like I was doing. I felt like this was me. I said, "Whoa!" I had my head up high. I talked different. I thought different, and it was just one snapshot at what life can be without me trying to be something I'm not.
So that's a pretty massive transformation.
Yes.
And to break it down for all the individuals who are former you, right, who are kind of stuck and have that false sense of love, security, support, family, what was that step-by-step guide to making that transformation? Because something tells me it didn't just happen by meeting a teacher and then magically we're there. Maybe it did, but I'm not. I would imagine there was a little more to it.
That's a good question. The only way I could describe that is it just happens like that in terms of human beings seeking purpose and tapping into their potential. And so I didn't know my purpose. I didn't know my potential, but Tim Stryver provided that environment for me to just feel free to be me without me having to feel like I'm selling out or I'm too smart or this is something that you shouldn't do because you're not competent enough to achieve. The sky was the limit when I was a part of the Young Men's Leadership Group for a brief moment. I say peer pressure is more influential than actual teachers or parents. So I think what really overtook me was peer pressure, because my mother always told me, if you don't know who you are, people tell you who you are. And so I never knew who I was. I let the gang tell me who I was. I let drug dealers tell me that it's okay to mess with 10 women because you'll never get hurt, womanize. So I believed that as that was the gospel. I like to take out some time to ask the women that I abused and hurt and for so many years during my adolescent and young adult life. Please forgive me for not knowing how to be a man of integrity and know how to love and protect and give a part of me instead of shutting down and feeling like I'm just this hard rock gorilla.
So we have, and I just want to make sure that I'm hearing you right and everyone else is hearing you right, in the sense where you have all the individuals you're running with and they're kind of telling you who to be, what to think. And then you have this teacher, Tim. And this is a man that clearly there was some level of attraction in the sense of he had a life that you wanted. And he set you up with this group of young men. And from that point, did you go back to the other individuals? Or was it mainly, hey, I'm really changing my life and I'm going to be running with this new crowd now?
That's a good question. I went back to the individuals.
Okay.
Because I didn't know who I was, and I desired to model after Tim and the rest of my colleagues, but the peer pressure and the safety and this false sense of trust and love overwhelmed me and allowed me to take those steps backwards.
So that was more appealing at that time.
Absolutely.
But you found there's another way to live, and that was that seed was planted. It just wasn't ready to grow yet.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
The soil was a little hard.
Right.
The soil was a little hard at the time.
It was hard.
Yeah.
So what softened it up?
Knowing I had the ability to love and respect other people from my childhood. And so I feel like I'm getting a little emotional now because when I talk about me, I talk about the softer, loving, gentle, protective side of me. And it wasn't ever me. And I never gave myself a chance to be who I really was, who God created me to be. And it could have cost me my life. To answer your question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No.
There's never anything to apologize
Right,
for on here.
right.
And I look at that as one of the most beautiful things in the world. And what I mean by that is there are about 7 billion of us on this planet, all of us incredibly flawed. Some of us have the opportunity, well, we all have the opportunity, but only some of us face those flaws head on and turn into who we want to be. And I look back at the things I've done in my life that give me the shivers and that I'm just so absolutely embarrassed. And then when I wake up in the morning and I recognize the damage that I've done in my life that I will never be able to reverse, but I don't have to do it again. Absolutely. And that gives me hope. And that when I see that in other people, whether it's people I'm working with, whether it's friends that I'm on this journey with, that's what inspires me to keep going, to say that, hey, I was once this person, I got so far off course, yet I found a way to get back. And so many times I don't take the time to reflect in my life and see it, but I see it in your life. I've known you for about 10 minutes and I see it in your life, and that's what keeps it going. So there's so much beauty in that, and certainly no need to ever apologize for feeling that. So yeah.
Yeah. Now you have that. Ooh. It's getting deep. I love it. So now we're still in high school.
Yes.
But we're still active in New Hallville or in the city of New Haven.
Yes.
We met Mr. Stryver now though, which I that's very interesting to me because for someone that you met, a 23-year-old teacher, and y'all clearly still connected. Like I really want to dive into that relationship. Like, did that continue to flourish while you was in high school and still active in your neighborhood? Like, was Tim still a part of your life?
He was still part of my life. Prior to me getting shot, it just devastated him. I was one of his students coming up trying to change my life around, and the principal told him one day that one of his students was shot and almost died. And Tim came to the hospital, and I was in the ICU, and he was rubbing my hand, and I looked at him, and he was saying, everything's gonna be all right, and I just start crying, and I said, Strive, I should have listened to the instructions that you was teaching us about how to self-regulate and take these steps, these stop, pause, and go steps when you're faced with a challenging situation. I didn't use the practices during a critical time, and it almost cost me my life. And so he said, no, it was nothing really for me to apologize. He's there for me. He loved me. And besides seeing my mom, I just remember seeing him just holding my hand, and it devastated him. And so ever since we had that emotional connection, like we just been locked into each other ever since. In terms of him seeing potential and that potential almost being wiped away from planet Earth.
Right. Yeah, trauma will bring people together.
Absolutely.
So you want to talk about that? You getting shot?
Oh yeah. During the time I was in high school, I was indulging in gang activity. My mom, she kept telling me to stay off Winchester Avenue, and I just want to listen. I just want to be, once again, be a part of this drug gang, just be a part of this crew, make the money. And one night she told me to pray before she went to church, and I prayed, and I said, Mom, I'm not praying. She said, go ahead and pray. So I prayed with her in the bathroom before she was getting dressed, and I sung the song, Your grace and mercy has brought me through. I'm living this moment because of you. And we just start laughing. And the next day, I went to go make a drug pickup, and I had an argument with this guy. And instead of me running, I decided to say, oh, this guy's not going to do nothing to me. If they do, I'll fight them fair. The guys end up running up on me with guns. They start beating me with the guns. They started to try to pull me in the alleyway. And some other guys came out and they said, don't shoot him. give him a fair fight. So I gave one of the guys a fair fight, and I knocked him down as soon as he put his hands up. And I went to pick my jacket up because I thought the fight was over with, and I didn't know his friend still had a gun in his hand, and he came out of nowhere, and all I heard was gunshots, 7 shots, and I hit the ground, and then I jumped right back up, and I said, I know this guy didn't shoot me. That's how fast it happened, and then I just dropped back to the ground. The guy that I knocked down, he must have woke up because he heard the gunshots and saw me on the ground. He just started to stomp me over and over and over again in my stomach. And that's why I grabbed his leg so he wouldn't keep stomping me. And then everybody, the crowd, grabbed him and pulled him off of me. And I just laid back on the ground screaming, saying, I don't want to die, I don't want to die. Telling my mother I love her. And I just passed out, and next thing you know, they brought me back to life. They revived me when I was in the ambulance, and I felt my soul like leaving out of my body. My mother told me that's when death is creeping up on you. It's hard to explain when you about to die, when you actually feel something about to lift up out of your body and float in the ambulance and come back down in your body. I felt that experience, and it scared the bejesus out of me. It's hard to explain. So when I finally got to Yale New Haven Hospital, they put the mask on my face, and my mother told me that the doctors came out to the waiting room and told my grandmother and the rest of the church members and friends that he wasn't going to make it because he lost so much blood. He's going to die. And my grandmother, she was an old time, she was the mother of the church. And she was rocking back and forth. And my mother told me, she kept saying she didn't want to hear it. And then she had said a prayer. She said, when I saw thee polluted in thy blood, I said, live. And she kept saying it over and over again, reading that scripture. And then my mother told me that probably an hour later, the doctors came outside and said to my mom that we finally stopped.
Take your time,
Finally stopped the bleeding. And she said, you don't know how close you came to death. And I've been trying to live a righteous life ever since, walking in love and forgiveness. And the guy that shot me, I saw him a couple of times, and I told him I forgave him. I knew how to get a gun. I knew how to retaliate. I was part of that environment. It was easy for me to do that. But because of my spiritual upbringing, what allowed me to cross that line, because God had mercy on me and gave me another chance to the tree of life. Who am I to disrespect or disregard what he did for me by trying to go out and do something on my own? And so I decided to forgive him and move on and try to be the best I can be. All right.
So what was the healing process like from that? Incredibly traumatic event where it sounds like physically you were in pretty rough shape.
Yes.
What was that journey to full strength like? Not only emotionally and spiritually, but physically.
They had to. I had to wear colostomy bag for 6 months, and so it was traumatizing. My girlfriend and I at the time, we used to argue because I was suffering from PTSD. I had nightmares and panic attacks. I thought people was out to get me. Someone was going to come in the hospital and try to finish the job. And so I used to keep the blinds closed and wrap myself up in the cover. I didn't want to be around anybody. And so mentally, I was distraught and broken. Physically, I felt incompetent, inadequate because I used to play football. I was an athlete, and to walk around with a colostomy bag for 6 months was embarrassing.
Right.
I didn't know how to adjust to that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can wholeheartedly relate to that in probably many ways that most people can't. And that it is such a challenge when you go from being able to do everything without thinking about anything, right?
Right.
To then having very basic needs taken away.
Absolutely.
And basic activities taken away. And that can feel, at least for me, feel like, hey, I'm less than, or I'm not normal, or who's gonna love me, or how am I ever gonna be able to go and have fun? All of those questions came in.
I'm so glad you brought that up. So I felt like that. That's why I stayed to myself, because one time my bag bust and people just didn't know how to deal with helping me in that way. My kid's mother came from the Bronx all the way up to Connecticut and cleaned me up and gave me a sense of hope and security, and I felt safe. Like, no matter what happened, she wouldn't judge me, she wouldn't look down on me. And I think that was the biggest blessing, besides my mom, like, trying her best to make me feel whole. She just couldn't deal with looking at me with my stomach open and having a bag. So my kid's mother offset that by helping her out, and she did a really good job by making me feel adequate.
I'm gonna take a step back in your story, because I think I mentioned it with Libby last episode, but your story is I can relate to it a lot, especially the mother of the church. When I caught my case and got locked up, I got my mother called me as en route to do the activity that we were going to do. And I said, I'm gonna call you back. She said, no, I wanna pray with you. And I said, and that was the first time I said, no, I'll call you back. I called her back. I'm in the precinct. You follow me? So if I would have, who knows?
Right.
But I really just want to highlight the power of a mother and a grandma. Like, that intuition is insane. Like, they feel it. They just like they know. And for you to have that experience with her, and then for that to happen, and obviously that didn't prevent you from getting shot, but I definitely think it helped you push through it, though.
Absolutely.
You know, so I have to highlight that, because I think that's something that for everyone, to have a mother that cares is a huge advantage in this world we live in. It's a huge advantage. So I just, I relate to that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
So coming back, you're kind of on the mend. What comes next?
You remember what year in high school this was? Was it junior year, senior year, freshman year?
This was it's been so long. I believe it was around my junior or senior year.
Okay.
When that happened. Yeah.
Where you go, Hill House?
I went to Hill House.
All right. Okay.
And after that, I just spiraled out of control, because I went to go get some mental health treatment, and they diagnosed me with PTSD, and I wasn't educated on what is mental health treatment, how does it work.
Right.
I went and saw a therapist, and I thought it was going to be like some happy pill to help me alleviate some of my flashbacks, and it didn't work. I tried it for 2 weeks, and I was out of there, and that was the worst decision of my life, because my relationship with my kid's mother, after we had our child, like a year after I got shot, it just went downhill. I projected out. I was angry. I avoided her, and she just took a lot of drama from me. She couldn't heal me or fix me. I needed to try to find a way to heal myself spiritually and and mentally. And she just said enough was enough, and she left me.
And when you say I tried therapy for 2 weeks and it didn't work, what does that mean?
My expectations of going into therapy at that time was to fix my paranoia, to fix my flashbacks, and whatever I was going through. I had an out of body experience after I got shot. I wasn't myself anymore, and I want to come back to who I was, and that person was gone a long time ago. I didn't know. I didn't understand expectations of what change looked like. I just did it, and so maybe if they had explained it to me that therapy is a process, then maybe I may have wanted to go through that process based upon trust, but they just put me right in. I had someone talk to me, and it just didn't work. I guess it was all based upon my expectations of what is therapy.
And that's so important, especially in this society where we're so driven by instant gratification and immediate fix. And these behaviors that you were doing well before you got shot were deeply ingrained, and they were not beneficial to living a productive life. But they were the automatic thing, right? The thing you've been doing over and over again. And to unwind that, it takes time. It takes patience. It takes tolerance. It takes all of these things. So bringing that up, it's so important. Change doesn't happen immediately. And there's a saying in self-help rooms saying, don't quit before the miracle happens. It takes time. It takes practice. And it takes knowing specifically what these skills that allow people to emotionally regulate, that allow people to overcome, it takes time to let those build and to shine the light on them.
Well said. I wish my therapist said that to me. You want to be my therapist? Because I would have gave it a chance, because I was seeking transformation or some hope or a possible healthy way of thinking and living. But if it was explained to me the way you just explained it to me, it would have been a possibility that I would have said, you know what, I'll give it a try.
And how I like to try to explain it, and I think an easy way is relating it to sports, right? You see someone like LeBron James. He didn't become LeBron James in a day. He didn't become LeBron James in 2 weeks, right? You can't go to a therapist and think, I'm going to go for 2 weeks, I'm going to go for a month,
right,
and all of a sudden everything that I've been doing forever is going to change. No. This is a man who worked tirelessly for decades to be at the top of the world, right? And we can all do that if we work tirelessly on ourselves and continue to do those things a day at a time. All this is a process. And that's what makes it meaningful too, right? If you just walked out on the court and you were the best player in the world, that wouldn't be very meaningful.
Absolutely
There
not.
would be no reference points. There would be no blood, sweat, and tears.
Appreciation.
Yeah, and it would go. What would your motivation be to continue?
Yeah.
So what helped you get on track, and what helped you really start that change process?
That's a good question. Nothing, pretty much. I pretty much was stuck in my own way of healing, my own way of thinking, my own way of solving my own issues, and I went right back on the street and started doing the same thing. And one night, I was mistaken for someone else, and these guys came to the backyard, and I was with my friend talking to these two girls, and they shot the whole porch up. And I just remember laying on my back, and just bullets flying everywhere, and that was another close call.
This is after you got shot.
Right after, probably about a year after I got shot, I went right back out there. So the streets, they call me, and some people, they are able to tell the tale of saying I survived, and other people, unfortunately, don't get another chance to be able to say, hey, I got a chance to change my life around. And it could have been me. I just couldn't, the irony, like, of thinking, wow, you just almost got murdered, and now you go right back out there and hang out and still do the same thing, in spite of what your mother is saying to you. You had a strong support system from Tim Stryver. It was just the need to be along. I mean, the need to belong and the need to be a part of something, and still not know who I was, trying to prove a point. I'm not having it.
Yeah.
And that shows that shows the power of familiarity, right? It was familiar. It was comfortable,
Yes.
right? Even though there was a lot of discomfort,
Yes.
it was still predictable in a way,
Yes.
where you knew exactly what you were getting. And it's why people suffer with substance use. It's why people suffer with everything that we have. Is there's so much, like, what is the most dangerous time for someone who's clinically depressed? When they feel better, right? For many reasons. One, because it's this new feeling, but two, they often will have the energy to carry out actions that they didn't have when they were severely depressed. But it is different, and there's comfort in the discomfort, right? Or minimally familiarity in the discomfort. And that can be really attractive to people, where if I do something different, I don't know what's going to happen. And that vulnerability in the idea that now I'm projecting what's going to happen, and I'm throwing my ideas on what's going to happen. But the problem is, my ideas and the reality are almost always two different things. And until I test that and get a new reference point, I'm staying stuck based on me.
And my comfortability, and my safety, and my sense of insecurity. Can I do this?
Right.
Can I take it to the next level? I didn't even give myself a chance. I just said, screw it. Like you said, comfortability. I know what works for me. I know there was a false sense of power and safety. My crew was waiting for me to go to war. And so why should I try to transform after 6 months to a year? And I got guys, because I just want to feel safe. And there's different ways of feeling safe than going right back to gang activity, drug activity. But the way I was thinking, and not giving myself a chance to be able to try new things, I did what worked for me, or what felt safe for me at the time.
Did you connect getting shot to gang activity in the moment?
Drug gang activity, it was drug gang activity.
But in real time, did you connect it? Like, hey, I got shot because this was the life I was living? Or was it, hey, I got shot because I just got really unlucky? Or does that make sense? Does that question make sense?
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
I don't
makes
think
sense.
I'm doing a great job articulating.
that makes sense.
You're right. It was. I got shot because of the life I was living. I worked at UPS, so I didn't have to sell drugs. So it was making extra money. My girlfriend was the newest thing in town. She came from the Bronx, New York, so I wanted to impress her. I brought a car. I felt good. I felt like it was my time. So I'm coming up in the game.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but I didn't think about the consequences of people saying, hey, you're making too much money. Don't be on this spot. This is my spot. Oh, this is not your spot. I've been here longer than you. And next thing you know,
It's going down.
It's going down. Just like that.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, I just think it's the culture. You know what I'm saying? Just I don't think you don't, for me at least, you don't think you got shot because you were doing this. It's more like this is a part of what happens when you're outside. You know what I'm saying? Because I got shot, and that's just what it is. Like, I know a lot of people that got shot, a lot of people that got killed. It's just a part of the culture. It's part of where we from.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you kind of chalk it up to your environment rather than your own actions.
And that's exactly what I was
Going
Yeah, like the idea of, hey, I can't stop drinking. I get multiple DUIs, or I do something, yet I don't take a look back on my relationship with alcohol. I just blame it on fill in the blank, and I'm not seeing what I'm doing, or I'm thinking that what I'm doing and what I'm saying are the same thing, when really they're very, very different.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, now we're going back to accountability, and I always say that's one of the scariest things to do is to look yourself in the mirror. So, you know what I'm saying? It's much easier to be like, I was in the environment and da-da-da-da-da, rather than I just did some bullshit. I put myself in this situation. How do I take myself out? It's easy to stay stuck if you don't think it's you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one of the scariest things to look in the mirror, but most empowering.
Oh, 100%. If you're able to do that, the sky's the limit. You win. That's the game. You win right there. If you could take accountability, you won. But, it's hard. It's hard, especially when you back to the environment, the inner city. Especially when you're in the inner city where you're playing spades with no spades. You know what I'm saying? So you got a lot of stuff going against you. So it's hard to then say it's my fault when I live in poverty, police harassing me, they trying to rob me, this and that. I got so much stuff going against me. Then to say it's on me to change it, it's kind of hard because you feel like that's what you have to deal with this. But again, that don't even matter because if you could put the cards back in and reshuffle, you know what I mean, and then get a handful of spades. That's the key. But a lot of people don't know that. They just think they see these 13 cards and that's it. You know what I'm saying? But it's tough though. It's a tough process.
I like how you said that, and you're spot on. You have to deal with it, and that's how I felt after that individual shot me. The streets was telling me I had to deal with it. Don't go to the police. You had to take them out. You had to do it. And the fact that I didn't do it, I was faced with repercussions. Oh, you're soft. You're scared. I mean, I could have been facing a life sentence if I would have brought into that because I had guys ready to go. But my mother just stayed in my ear. Don't do it. Don't do it. I know what you're going to do. Don't do it. And I think that was my biggest hurdle to overcome. Listening to my mother not retaliate, and the guys that looked up to me, knowing that I was that type of guy that would just do it, decide not to do it, they didn't have that same respect for me anymore, and I didn't know how to deal with that. Feeling like I'm soft. Feeling like I'm.
And it's funny though because
Yeah.
they saying you soft, and that was probably the most courageous thing you did at the time.
Now at 50,
Yeah.
or
yeah,
instead
yeah.
of doing 50,
Yeah.
50 years or a life sentence, the stuff that we wanted to do at that time, like we just wanted to go on this massive killing spree.
Yeah.
I mean, I just got to put it out there.
Yeah.
We was locked and loaded, ready to go, and deal with the consequences later. But now that I'm an adult, I just thank God that I listened to my mom and took those hits of you're soft, you're powder puff. How could you let this guy do this to you? What's wrong with you? You know, I had to eat that, and I took that out on my kid's mother by arguing and everybody else that was around me because I just didn't know how to deal with not being accepted for something I wasn't. That's the only way I can explain it.
So when was it that you started this new journey?
Yeah.
After my kid's mother left me, I decided to, this was years later, I guess when she got married and had another child, I decided to drink alcohol and smoke a lot of marijuana. And so I pretty much lost everything for 7 years. I went into a deeper depression. And so the fact that when I got shot, it had a ripple effect. It snowballed in other areas of my life, and I lacked the coping skills to be able to deal with adversity and setbacks and disappointments, and I crashed. And so I ended up moving to New York City to get the help that I needed, and I decided to forgive her and forgive myself for abandoning her and start, like you said, the prodigal son, taking education seriously, giving myself a chance, and embracing resilience in New York City. And prayer and living in New York City allowed me to develop a sense of resilience and focus to be who I am right now. I lived in the shelter system out there. Around people sleeping up underneath the bridge, and I was in a rehab center with people from New Jersey, Jersey City. As a matter of fact, the whole rehab was New Jersey coming over because they had a lot of issues over there. They used to come to the rehab in Harlem, and I was friends with other people from Jersey City and Newark and Patterson. And so just living that type, being in that environment, being who I am once again, I think, in fact, I know I flourished because I didn't need to be something else other than to show up and try to be the best that I can be around people that's trying to be the best they can be within recovery.
So finding a group of people who are like-minded.
Exactly.
Such an important thing. I wouldn't even call it an important thing. I'd just call it a cheat code, right? If I surround myself with people who are going in the direction I want to go, the likelihood of me helping them and them helping me is incredibly high. Whereas if I'm surrounding myself with people going in a different direction, it's kind of whichever direction is down we go. Gravity is a thing, right? And it's a lot easier to fall than it is to fly.
Absolutely.
Right? Then I love the saying, they'll mess me up before I help them. At least I know that's been true in my life. So having those like-minded people sounds like it was real. It was a game changer for you.
It was a game changer. You're spot on. That's exactly what happened. Everybody was on top of the game. Everybody had a pen and paper, things to do. We was like robots. We went in, we did our meetings. We took advantage of all the resources New York City had to offer. Going back to school, vocational school. It was no complaining. It was just straightforward focus on recovery and patience at the same time. Because a part of recovering from any addiction, it's just being patient and allow the process to play out.
That's right.
And so we were just patient and collectively patient, and we rallied behind each other. And we saw somebody deviating, we didn't ostracize them, but we tried to get them the help they needed. But we wouldn't allow anything to come in front of our recovery. That's women, that's family. It was called, I developed and I learned a positive selfishness. It's okay to be selfish when you're focusing on you, your come up, your transition. If you can't take care of you, you can't take care of anybody else.
Can't pour water out of an empty pitcher.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like in New York, you went from client to staff. Did you start working in recovery in New York?
I started working at ARC. I started working for them. And I started working for AIDS. It was an AIDS ward that was a part of their program. I was a house manager, so I knew what it was like for people to come in that's sick, on the verge of passing away, people that were still struggling from addiction. So it helped me understand accountability because they trusted me with the keys. I was able to be promoted, and I was able to make a lot of money. They paid pretty good, and I just saw my life skyrocketing because I put my best foot forward. I decided to give myself a chance, and I decided to be patient, just show up for work. I used to work my shift sometime where they wasn't even paying me. They say, hey, cover this post until somebody come. It'd be 2 or 3 hours later. Then they come. I didn't get paid for that. I just learned how to be there, be accountable. I learned being committed to whatever I said I was going to do, whether you're going to pay me or not. And everything is not always about money. It's about commitment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like you getting to live your genuine life, your genuine self.
Yes.
That's when you started really seeing real success and striving for greatness.
Yes. I was like a kid in a candy store because I can be Lamont Young. I can share. I can love. I felt safe living in New York because as long as I conducted myself appropriately, I didn't have any problems with anybody because I respected everybody that came across my path.
We got the same story, other than New York. From you Connecticut to New York, I'm Jersey to Connecticut.
And then,
you know what I'm saying? Because when I came to Connecticut, I was able to be Kevin instead of KP. You know what I'm saying? For sure. When did the education start? Because you know, we've looked at the bio, we looked at the stuff that you provide for us, and just looking back, I know me and Ben was highly impressed on the stuff you've been able to accomplish in the education realm. So, because I know you went to school in New York too. So tell me about that, because I think that's real important.
So that's a good question. I started out being an electrician. I said, I wanted to, when I was in recovery, I wanted to be a welder. I decided to say I want to weld bridges. I want to be an underwater welder. I was just trying to figure out what I want to be. Like, weld underwater, make a lot of money.
That's dope.
Weld a bridge or do high voltage welding. And so I did it. I decided to be a residential electrician, actually welder. But then I said, you know what, let me be an electrician. So I decided to go to enroll in electrical school in Queens, and I didn't know anything about being an electrician, but I know that I was resilient, and I knew no matter what I decided to do, I was going to give myself a chance to try my best to be the best I can be. And so I ended up graduating with A's. Like, all my projects were A's. I graduated at the top of my class, and I don't even know how I did it. It was just laser focus. But then I ended up working for the woman that hired me, and making $7 an hour for 5 years while I was an undergrad, bringing home $120 every 2 weeks for 5 years, cleaning toilets. That humbled me. I worked that job like it was a $20 an hour job. And I went to the College of Rochelle, and I didn't really know how to read or write pretty good because my whole high school career wasn't too good. I didn't focus on school. But then when I went to College of Rochelle, I said I wanted to give myself a chance. And so but once again, I was laser focused. I got the help and tutoring I need, and I graduated in 3 years, and I made the dean's list. And I decided to enroll into the College of Rochelle. Fordham, because once I found out that I had potential, and as long as I applied myself, then the sky was the limit. So I said, you know what? I'm going to pop my collar. Let me apply to Fordham, Columbia, Hunter College, and NYU. I was accepted into Fordham and Hunter College. And so I said, well, let's do it, Fordham. And the rest was history. I had some struggles and challenges at Fordham. I was the only African-American in that program for 4 years. I experienced microaggression during that time, but I was able to walk with my chin up high, still walk in forgiveness and love, and still stay laser focused to the mission. And I was able to graduate with a 3.3 average. And that's after not learning anything in high school for 4 years, being involved in gang activity, and finding ways to apply myself, learn how to learn, humble myself, get the tutoring and help that I needed, not blame people because of race, color, but focus on the mission, and let everything else take care of itself.
It's an incredibly, and I know we keep saying this, but the power in your story is that of so many others.
Right.
And that is the beauty of it, is because I look at you and I just look at someone who just wants to have this beautiful experience on this planet.
Yes.
And isn't afraid to settle, right? Or is afraid to settle, I should say.
Right. Yeah.
And the idea, you didn't know that you could be a student.
Absolutely not.
You didn't know.
No.
So you did it.
Yes.
And then you found out you could be a student.
Yes.
You didn't know that you could go to grad school.
No.
So guess what? You did it.
Yes.
That's amazing.
That is anyone can do that.
Yes.
But you have to have that faith. You have to learn. You mentioned the term resiliency many times. Resiliency is a skill. It is, right? You can't develop it without going through it.
Absolutely.
And you were able to do that time and time again, and you were able to show myself what your worth is.
Yes.
And that is a beautiful thing. And you do that, it sounds like, every single day when you wake up. And that is what I know you do every day when you wake up. And I try to do it as many days as I can when I wake up.
You do it. You do it.
It's not a coincidence that you are where you are. You're a power of an example, and it's exactly the people like you who we are so blessed to be able to have conversations with, because it shows I hate to burst everyone's bubble. I'll start with myself. There's nothing special about me. There's nothing special about you.
I don't know about that.
Maybe something special about you. There's definitely something special about you. But the idea is we are just typical humans who decided to get out of our comfort zones.
Yes.
And realize that we don't know what we don't know, so we're going to let ourselves try to know by doing.
Absolutely.
And when that happens, I know something really special happened in my life, and it sounds like something really, really special happened in your life.
Absolutely.
And it's still happening.
and it's still happening.
It's still happening.
And the beautiful thing, right? And I want to kind of wrap with Unite, because this is the book that is out now. Throw it right here. Is that good, Ray? Yeah.
Red cheeks.
And can you just give a little overview of what this book is about, where people can find it?
Sure. So Unite, the call to Unite came out in May 2020 during the pandemic. We decided to say, let's just try to pull everybody from around the world to be able to come together and be able to share stories of hope, joy, and figure out how we can promote what it means to be human, how we can connect and be able to move forward and bridge the gaps of divide in 2020 and 2021 during the pandemic. And so the call to Unite, which was a 24-hour call to action, it was live streamed all over the planet Earth. My organization decided to come out with the book. And so you can find the book on Amazon. It's $25, and it's a good read. It's a spiritual read. It's something that you can be able to take home and be able to share with your family as it relates to connecting and promoting hope and trust during these turbulent times. We all need to unite. We all need to find a way to bridge the gaps, but you can't unite without loving, trusting, and forgiving your brother and sister.
That's a fact.
And on that note, I think that pretty much answers our typical final question.
Yeah, it does.
You definitely, your story, although as different as it is from my story, there's so much similarity. So much similarity, and I'm truly a better person for having had this conversation with you, and I'm so grateful for you to be here.
Thank you.
For anyone out there, please look up Unite. This book it's super powerful, and it has your stories mentioned in here,
Yes.
as well as many others, all incredibly powerful, and with the common goal to bring us together.
Absolutely.
So
Shout
again,
outs to Tim Shriver. We want you on the show.
Absolutely,
Shameless
Tim.
plug.
You heard it, Tim.
Tim, we want you.
You heard it, Tim.
But no, that's shout outs to Tim though, because he 23 to take the time with you and to mentor mentee.
Absolutely.
Mentor mentee relationship is so important.
Absolutely.
So shout outs to Tim and everything he got going on.
Shout outs to Tim Shriver. Thank you so much for believing in me and allowing me to have a seat at the table so I can be able to promote connection, love, trust, and resilience. Thanks to you for planting that seed, getting me to this point. I appreciate you and I love you, brother.
well, I appreciate both of you. Thank you guys. I appreciate everyone listening out there, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
Falling Up Podcast.